Alrighty, so I think we have three more girls, and I think this is all of the girls. I don't watch Love Live. I haven't watched Love Live, but there are nine girls on the opening thing. There's a way to go back to the title screen. So there are nine girls here, and it looks like we got them all. I don't think it's like Pokemon, right? I don't think any more are gonna come out. So I'm gonna do like a review of these three monsters and talk about it. But this event was quite disappointing. This collaboration. It's not too surprising though. I feel like a lot of animes that you watch with lots of girls, generally speaking, they've all got problems and they're all shallow because it takes a lot of time to build up good character. And so this is probably pretty lore accurate. I mean, all of these monsters seem weak. Like, they just don't do enough things. Like, I don't know why A Team just doesn't add a couple more things that each of these monsters does. But there is a new field. Also, these seem like 46 cost monsters. So generally speaking, when you go from 45 to 46, whenever you increase the value of the cost to a new group, the first monsters always suck ass. They always are horrible monsters. So I could understand this if they were like 46 cost monsters, but it's none of these monsters do anything. I just don't understand. Okay, well, whatever. It's pretty lore accurate. It seems like all these girls are. Yeah, I mean, I guess I haven't watched Love Live, but for example, like Danmachi takes a long time to talk about its girls. Well, let's get into it. It's another treasure spawns. It's another 5-1, so probably 850 gems to be on the safe side. Let's talk about Kanan first. She hits 5 times, 800 ability power, still less than Pandora, so don't expect to be killing. Also doesn't penetrate. Applies field obstacle to the enemy field. That's actually pretty good. Frail is not super useful, but it's okay, especially if the enemies are going to try to kill your crystal. I think. Oh no, Frail is the one that's defensive. Okay, well, I guess it'll help you. Frail's the one that prevents the enemies from proccing defensively. Dual attack. Dual attack's interesting. I think that there are more than enough abilities nowadays that if you really wanted to kill someone, dual attack is not necessary anymore. Like for a while, dual attack was super necessary on some classes like mage and lancer, but it seems like there's enough abilities nowadays where you can get by without dual attack. It's not super necessary, but there are some special abilities that have really long cooldowns that would benefit from this. Cost speed up, Unison engage up, armament, which is it's an okay bubble. It's better for PvP, gives you the penetration, but yeah, no defense on this one. And then something new called United Tactics, which increases all stats by 150. Same thing with all the other new fields. Increases maximum unison gauge capacity by 30, nullifies unison gauge reduction, increases unison gauge gains by 1. Very, very interesting. It seems like A Team is actually leaning towards individual racers and leaning away from the idea of lancers, unidowns, all of that stuff. Because there has been a general trend where A Team has increased the amount of unison reduction that you can gain and cost reduction, and simultaneously they've been buffing other characters like morphers, or the classes like morphers, to allow for full team uni gains and then full team throws, because that's what ended up winning the GGT, was full team uni. So it is very interesting. The increased Unison gauge gains and Unison gauge reduction, those might have problems. Generally speaking, there's occasionally issues with that. I also don't know. I believe the max is 5 when it comes to Unison gauge gains. This is unclear whether or not I can get up to 6. But this is a really, really interesting time, because if this monster gets thrown, there's basically, like, if this field goes up, it's going to be really hard to prevent the enemies from gaining uni. I mean, you can get rid of it. You can use a Lancer and remove it, but yeah, it's gonna be a tough one. 50k scorching resistance. Scorching is not very common. Fire defense by 1,000 is okay. No one's really using wind right now, but it could come back. Applies grace for 150 seconds. Grace is pretty decent now that the HPs are pretty big, so that's nice. Overall, PvE-wise, this monster is garbage. You're basically only using it for the United Tactics. And if you want this United Tactics, I would just wait for a better monster. This monster doesn't do anything. Like, actually doesn't do anything. So, PvE, I mean, solid 4 out of 10. You're getting a new field. Long-term wise, this monster is going to be 0 out of 10, though. I mean, you may never see another United Tactics on a fire monster. So if you're really wanting to be super optimal, just keep that in mind. But there's nothing else here. PvP, when it comes to PvP, we're not gaining Unison. I mean, we are like gaining uni plus uni gain and prevention. But what I mean is, like, the monster doesn't boost your allies. It also doesn't reduce the enemies, which I guess doesn't really matter anymore. And then it also doesn't give you penetration. It doesn't kill the enemies. It does prevent them from using a field, so they'll have to use 2. But I don't think that that's a big enough deal to really matter. So yeah, I would say this monster is solidly in the 5 out of 10. You are preventing an obstacle on the enemies. You're potentially reducing their ability to defend themselves. And then you're subtly boosting your team. The damage isn't good enough to really matter, but everything else is pretty good. When it comes to guild battles, you're not going to see this monster. Maybe for a clash to fit inside of a fire, water, wind type throw. But first round, there's no boosting for a racer. If you're doing a full team, you're basically only using this for the United Tactics, which could be a strategy. I'm not saying that. But I don't think that this is such an amazing field. The secondary effects aren't so ungodly powerful that it seems like you need it. So I would just throw something that uni blocks the enemies. So first round throws, we're looking at like 6 out of 10, maybe 7 out of 10 if you're working with your teammates. For a racer, I'm looking at like 3 out of 10. And then second round clashes, it depends on what you're throwing with it, but it could be useful. There are not a lot of fire monsters that give a field, and a lot of those are kind of outdated, don't do a lot of damage. You could kind of argue it fits just for the field and the field obstacle. So potentially up to like a 7 out of 10. Yeah, Kanan isn't too bad. Right, let's talk about Dia. Dia is wind. 200% buff Serenity, which is kind of nice. A-Team has been doing a lot of Serenity monsters, but I don't necessarily think that Serenity is so overpowered that if you put it on everyone, it's good. It's kind of an interesting one. All allies, Unison fill effect. That's pretty good. It's a unique one, so that's nice. All allies applies the following effect for 150 seconds, recovers 20% of max HP when using an ability. Really interesting. I think this is an old buff, but they basically stopped using it because HP was so garbage that it just wasn't worth using. Siege is an okay bubble. I mean, I don't like Siege, but it's whatever. Confuse and prohibit Unison resistance. Wind defense. Wind is actually pretty useful right now. A lot of people are throwing water to counter Pandora, which is fire. So that's not too bad. Rage isn't too bad either. Getting Rage and 200% on the same monster. I would have liked to have seen Dawn instead, but you're getting Rage and Serenity. So that's actually not too bad. When it comes to PvE, this monster is worse than a monster that came out in 2 years ago, 1 year ago, something like that. It's worse than Valk, right? Valk gives 180 buff, but she gives triple proc plus elevation, and she also gives Kijin. So I would rather take Valk than the new monster, which is not a good look for the new monster, Dia. It is interesting, but I don't think it's that great. When it comes to PvE, this is probably one of the best, if not the best. I think the water monster, the first round water monster, was a little bit better. But this one's not a bad monster. A lot of monsters are giving Serenity, plus Serenity, Dawn, and Rage all exist in the same arena as bubbles. So they don't stack with bubbles. They get replaced by bubbles, and they don't stack themselves. So like Rage can't stack with Dawn, and Serenity can't stack with Dawn. So there is an overlap. They're old buffs. That's why they're like that. Maybe A-Team will eventually fix that, but I doubt it. So yeah, overall it's an okay monster. You're basically just getting 200% buff. And these two unique ones where when you use abilities, you gain uni faster and HP. So when it comes to PvE, I would say that this is a solid 7 out of 10 monster. You are getting this 200% buff, but especially for free-to-play players and for newer players, the 20% on the HP is actually going to be quite consequential. You won't need to get a good build early that has lots of lifesteal in your procs, and you won't have to rely on procs as much, so it should help new players stay alive. Now, when it comes to like overall comparisons to all other monsters, this is like a 6 out of 10. It basically just gives 200% buff. Now, PvP is a little bit different. We don't have diffusion. We don't have penetration. We don't have uni boosting the team. We also don't have crest or field. However, if you apply this to a crest ally, the crest ally is going to have something like 100k HP. If you use this monster with some HP gain and a field and this old recycled 20% HP thing, you are going to get a lot of HP, and it might make that crest player almost impossible to kill. This works for PvP and guild battles, but generally speaking, this wouldn't be too bad, actually. It relies a lot on your teammates and working together, but PvP-wise, it could work. Now, if you're solo throwing this, it's like a 4 out of 10, 3, 4 out of 10. If you're throwing this with a group, it's not too bad. I would say, as a team, solid 6 out of 10. When it comes to guild battles, round 1, if you're doing like full 5v5 clash, and like, or a second round clash, is actually not a bad monster. Being able to heal instantly when you're using abilities, having Serenity, which can be stripped and can give your allies Uni, it's not too bad. I would say with a solid team, this monster could actually be useful in some situations and could potentially win you the round, but you would need other people to throw with you. So for that reason, I'm going to put it solidly at a 7 to 8 out of 10, something around that. When it comes to solo racing or round 1 throws for countering or anything like that, it's a pretty bad monster. You're not getting diffusion, no penetration. You are getting a little bit of healing and potentially the chance to get it stripped, but it's not something, like, you're not giving your team defenses, and you really need a field or crest, some way to give your team defenses. And this doesn't give it. So solid 4 out of 10 for like first round counters, first round throws, no unigate, no diffusion, no penetration, no fortify. If this monster had fortify, it'd actually be a pretty good monster. It'd actually be a pretty good monster, I think. But yeah, D is okay. Oh. All right, let's talk about Mari. Some okay damage. It does penetrate, but you're looking at 500 ability power compared to like the 1,000 that's necessary to kill people, plus only 5 times, whereas you'd normally want to hit like 10 times. So, actually, it does hit 10 times. That does change things a little bit. I mean, this monster can definitely kill. Then you're hitting 10 times for like 560 ability power. Boosted up to 600 when it's maxed. I mean, that's not too bad. That's probably up there with some of the other water monsters. It is below monsters like Pandora, but a lot of people aren't building against water monsters right now. So, yeah, time slice by 90 seconds. This is exactly what you want to see. So the rest of this monster, so far we have damage. That indicates it's PvP or guild battle, and you're trying to kill. Time slice, uniblock, these are the things, like field down, these are the things that I'm hoping to see in the rest of this monster. So we have time slice, that's good. Paralysis, that's good. Confuse, that's good. Blinds, good. And then readout. And that's it. And that's it. I mean, this monster should be doing like 4 more things. I just don't. Okay. 50k, frozen resistance, water defense. Water defense, we talked about it before. It's quite useful right now. Pandora is really overpowered, but Pandora's fallen out of favor a little bit, considering how much HP people are able to get. People are able to protect themselves against Pandora and not really take a whole lot of damage, even when they have Nebulous Eclipse, especially with the incredible amount of HP you're allowed to get nowadays. So really, this is probably temporary. We'll have to see what new monsters come out that come into the meta, but it's not. It's good right now, but it's falling out of favor. It seems like Uniblock is better. If you prevent the enemies from unioning, you can just win. All allies applies Keygen. Okay. Penetration, not bad. You're getting pen, you're getting ability power boosts and some other stuff. It's okay, and accuracy boosts. So it's okay. PvE. Let's talk about PvE first. You're basically only getting Kijin. 1 out of 10. You would never use this monster for any reason ever. When it comes to PvP, this monster is interesting. If you solo throw, you're not going to kill. I'll just tell you right now. Most people aren't going to die. Unless you're a super mega whale and you have incredible stats. But the enemies probably aren't going to die. And the time slicing is good, but nowadays most buffs last to 150. So you need double time slicers. It's not really feasible in something like PvP. However, paralysis, confuse, and blind are so oppressive that there's a good chance, and it's at 160. I mean, these are really high percentages that they can land. If you throw this monster, the enemies are most likely going to get hit. Now, keep in mind, they can still unigain. It's not something like rejection, which there was an old monster named Levi from Attack on Titan, of course. He was a priority monster who cost down, uni down, rejected so that you couldn't gain cost or uni, and then blinded you so that you couldn't attack or do any damage. And he was so oppressive that he was used, and he's like a 41 cost monster, 42 cost monster. He could still be used today in PvP, and he would be oppressive. I mean, that's how good he was. This is not that. You're not cost downing, you're not uni downing, you're not boosting those. It's not a priority monster. Paralysis, confuse, and blind are all really basic debuffs that can be removed, and some buffs automatically remove them. Not to mention, these only last for 30 seconds. So if you throw this in something like PvP or in guild battle, in Clash, you throw this monster, its effect goes off. A bunch of other monsters' effects go off. And then you have a match go off. And that effect takes 10 to 15 seconds for the match effect to go off. By the time that is done, this is most likely gone. Like, it's not even going to last. Just the 30 seconds, I just don't get it. I mean, like, maybe I can see this monster being a cheese throw where you just throw this monster and it lands its stuff half the time, and that's super oppressive. But it also doesn't tell us what type of paralysis that it lands. I don't know why A-Team does this. I need to actually, I'll probably reach out to A-Team. They need to write specifically what level it comes out as. Because if it's level 1 paralysis, that's only like a 25% chance to, not be able to use your ability. But level 3 paralysis is something like 90%. So if you land paralysis plus confusion, you're basically never allowed. Level 3 paralysis and confusion, which I imagine that these are. You're basically not allowed to move. So, yeah. It's a very interesting monster. But for PvP, I would say as a solo throw, you are getting the penetration. And these, as like a solo throw, these 30 seconds will last. If you land any of these debuffs, they'll be pretty oppressive. So, solid 7 out of 10. You're not getting diffusion. The time slice isn't really useful when it's a solo throw. So, there are better monsters. But it can be oppressive. Now, keep in mind too, paralysis, confusion, and blind are all pretty easy to get massive amounts of resistance again. I mean, we've seen other monsters that have like paralysis plus 70. So these are pretty common. They're not too difficult to get defenses against, but a lot of players will probably get hit by this. So yeah. Now, when it comes to like round 3 PvP clashing, something like that, this will probably be bottom of the barrel because a lot of monsters throw abilities that cleanse debuffs like this. So you're basically only throwing this for the damage and the time slicing, which actually isn't too bad. I would say it's a solid. Oh, and the penetration isn't bad either. I'd say it's a solid 5 out of 10. I could be wrong about this, but I think the ability power is a little bit too low. When you compare it to something like Pandora, which hits for over 1,000, same thing, penetration, and hits 10 times. I mean, or actually, does Pandora hit 10 or 20 times? Anyway, Pandora hits an unimaginable amount of times. There's also no uni block here. If it threw uni block on top of it, I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's a good monster. But if the enemies are going to just have their unis go off, then you're most likely not going to land anything. So, also, readout is so bad that it's like nothing. It's like a nothing bubble. So, when it comes to 5-round clash, it's not great. Guild battles are basically the same thing as a 5-round clash right now. Most people are throwing 5, for a 2nd round clash, or if you're doing a full uni team growth strat where you're throwing 5 unis all at the same time, this is going to suffer from the same issue. You're basically throwing this as a damage and time slicing monster, which it can do damage and it can also do time slicing. So in that instance, I think this monster could be an 8 out of 10 monster if you can order your unis properly so that you can strip them and then apply debuffs and potentially hit them with some of these things. But I would like to see more uni blocking monsters than I would see this monster. You're basically throwing this monster to help you kill. And there is a monster that's really powerful that gives crest, uni blocks, and does massive damage. I forgot her name. It starts with an M, but yeah. I mean, she exists. So this monster's already getting outdone, but I can see for free-to-play players or newer players, if you end up getting this monster, it can fit into your guild battle strategy. Now, if you have this on a solo racer or a first round solo throw in guild battles, it's not going to be that useful. You're not uni boosting your team. Those players don't have a lot of damage, so it's not going to be killing anyone. The time slice will strip things like resurrection, which can be really good right now, but the paralysis, confuse, and blind will not land unless your team is uni status ailment downing the enemy, which could work as a strategy, but the 30 seconds isn't long enough. You need a little bit longer. For those reasons, I think that it's just not a viable strategy right now. However, I could see a team building specifically around this monster and it potentially working. Again, the 30 seconds is just a little bit too low for my taste, but what can you do? So, yeah, I think it's okay. It's an okay monster. I would say it's a solid 6 out of 10. It could definitely set up a specific strat if you were building a specific strat around it. It could be something like an 8 or a 9 out of 10. I just think there are better options. Now, for a turnaround monster, this is actually not too bad. You're stripping the enemies, so we're assuming that the enemies have already kind of unied once or twice. You're time slicing the enemies, plus potentially landing some of these. If the enemies only threw 2, maybe 3 monsters, the likelihood that they'll have enough... the likelihood that they have monsters that have currently protected them is low. However, the likelihood that they threw monsters that will give them more uni and allow uni chaining to occur is high. So, yeah, this part is basically nothing. I would have liked to have seen a field or a field prohibit on the enemy, something more oppressive that the enemies can't really prevent. But the time slicing is nice, and the penetration is also not bad. So, I mean, for like a turnaround monster, 6 out of 10. Would have liked something else. Maybe Crest even. That would not have been bad. But yeah, it seems like all of these monsters are just all mediocre. It doesn't seem like any of these monsters are top tier. Now, I got a specific request in one of my previous videos to go over back 5 monsters and which monster should you max if you get all of the monsters, I assume, as like a backline 5 or something that you would want to max out. This monster is not... Kanan isn't too great. Yeah, I would probably skip Kanan. Dia is pretty good. The Prohibit and Confused resistance, that can be quite useful. The Wind also counters water, which is currently countering fire as Pandora, so it can be pretty useful right now. I would say Dia is pretty good. Let's take a look at Mari for the backline 5. Oh, no. Nope. We're moving on. Yoshiko, paralysis, and psychological contamination. Neither of these are super common. The blessing isn't bad, though, actually, on this monster. If I remember correctly, the blessing kind of makes it a little bit better. So, it's like maybe top 5. Ruby, blind and prohibit unison. I love it. That's top 1. That's one that you would want to max. Hanamaru, lethargy and frail, not great. Dark does give light and time, so for a total of 2,000. But if I remember correctly, this monster does give serenity plus. Ooh, I mean, maybe the serenity could be useful enough, but yeah, probably another top 5. Chica, so. Okay, the rejection resistance is really nice, but the everything else is... The Kijin is actually applies really well with the rest of her stuff. So actually, I'm going to say that this is a top tier monster as well to boost, but like as a backline 5 monster, it's okay. The rejection resistance... Rejection can be extremely disabling, so it can be good to get rid of that. Abstraction, garbage, just ignore it. Dawn, it's not such a powerful buff that I would say. I mean, Rico is so bad, you wouldn't even want her, so. Insanity resistance. Insanity has not been used in a long time to an oppressive extent, so just, it is worth mentioning. Time elemental defense. For Unison by 1,000. That one's actually really good as a backline 5 monster. A lot of people struggle to get high star defense because there are not a lot of time monsters in general that are good. So a lot of people struggle to get good star defense. Even having a few good star defense monsters, like things that give you time elemental defense that'll, time beats star. So that's what I mean. But a few monsters that give you time to beat star, that's super good, especially for free-to-play or for newer players. This is another top-tier one, just for backline 5, man. That's really good. So yeah, that's pretty much all of the monsters and the collab. And yeah, I guess I'll catch you guys later.